So today on this recording for the Southeast Ohio Quality Improvement Hub, we are joined by Dr. Amber Healy, who has been an active member of the Quality Improvement Project since we've started. And we are going to talk about insurance coverage today for CGMs, for continuous glucose monitors. Thank you for joining us.
Thank you for having me.
All right, so the first question I'm going to ask is for you to tell me more about getting a CGM for a patient who is on Medicaid.
So with Medicaid, this is probably one of the easier populations to get a CGM for at this point. There are multiple diagnoses outside of type 1 and type 2 diabetes that are covered.
Nice.
And it is a prescription benefit. So you simply send in the prescriptions for the pieces and parts of the CGM, and the patient picks it up at the pharmacy.
Okay, that's really nice. That's easy. Okay, so let's move on to something a little more complex, which we've had some questions on from our providers, is talk to me about getting a CGM through Medicare.
Yeah, so Medicare can be a little bit more complicated, but the typical patient for this is going to have type 1 or type 2 diabetes usually, and probably other types of diabetes are covered too, like some of the more atypical forms.
Okay.
And then you need to be on insulin.
Okay.
And then in order to maintain that patient staying on CGM, they need to be seen every 6 months.
Every 6 months, okay.
And then these prescriptions or orders actually go through DME suppliers.
Okay, so durable medical equipment. Okay.
So in order to do that, you have to first put that through a platform called Parachute.
Okay.
So Parachute, you go in, you'll put in patient information, you'll pick a DME supplier. There's various ones that are available, like CCS Medical, there's Edge Park, Byram, Aptiva, just to name a few.
Okay.
And they're, depending on the insurance, depends on which one is contracted with that company.
Is there any way for you to know which one is contracted with that company?
Sometimes we know based on other equipment they may be receiving from that company. Sometimes we tend to rely more on Solara in our office because they're easier to use. And then, but we know like Humana Advantage, they like CCS Medical. So it's something that you kind of learn, or you have to talk to the patient's plan to figure out. Okay,
so, and the more you do, the more familiar with it you'll become. Okay, that sounds good. So Parachute. So tell me more about Parachute.
So Parachute, your office will have to create an account.
Okay, so it's an account for the entire office. Wonderful. Okay.
And then you log in and you put in patient information.
Okay.
And you pick a DME supplier. Okay. And then Parachute will confirm the receipt of the order for the equipment. Okay. And at that point, they will determine insurance coverage as well. If the insurance covers it, then they reach out to the patient and they talk to the patient about next steps about sending it to their home.
Awesome.
If insurance doesn't cover it, you might want to consider either looking and making sure that it's not a different DME supplier that was required for that, or if the documentation that was provided was inadequate for the patient to meet criteria for a sensor.
Okay, I love that. And I always like to go over this because in my head, that's how I keep it straight too. So the patient is required to have a diagnosis of diabetes, type 1, type 2, or other types of diabetes. They are also required to be on insulin for it to be covered under Medicare. The patient is also required to be seen every 6 months by Medicare. And then it is sent through a DME provider. And the way that's done is through the Parachute platform where an account is created for your office. And it's entered sort of like a prescription, but under Parachute.
Yeah.
Okay, that's fantastic. And you receive receipt. So when you get a confirmation receipt, if it's not covered under that particular DME provider, do you just have to try another one, or does it tell you which one it should be covered under?
Sometimes it'll tell you the one that's preferred.
Okay, that's fantastic. And I know it was mentioned one time before that maybe if it's not covered any of these, it may be a pharmacy benefit, but it's a rare time when it's actually a pharmacy benefit. Oh, but that's not for Medicare. Medicare's all under Parachute.
Medicare's DME supplier all under Parachute.
Okay.
Commercial, which I know we're going to touch on here in a bit, is actually where it's usually a pharmacy benefit.
Right.
And once in a while, it's a DME.
Okay, that's what we could talk about. That's perfect. Great way to slide into that. All right, so we've talked about Medicaid. We've talked about Medicare. Talk to me about private insurance. So how might someone have a CGM covered through a private insurance?
So private insurance, usually, it's a pharmacy benefit.
Okay.
Once in a while, it'll be a DME supplier.
Okay.
It can vary with coverage, though. Sometimes diabetes diagnosis. Once in a while, you'll see prediabetes or another condition that it's covered for.
Okay.
But that varies from insurance to insurance. Other requirements sometimes are still the 4 times a day finger stick that we've seen in the past.
Okay.
But that's not very often either, but still is out there as a constraint sometimes for obtaining somebody's a CGM for somebody.
Okay. Okay. That sounds good. So then with private insurance, it's usually a pharmacy benefit. And it may be covered similarly to Medicare coverage about the insulin and the diabetes, but maybe not. Worth a try.
Yeah.
Okay. That sounds good. Is there anything else that you would like to share with us about CGM coverage? Anything along those lines?
No, I think we pretty well covered it today.
I think so too. Thank you for your time, Dr. Healy.
You're welcome.